Hello and welcome to this Chain Lightning number 3. There's another US political debate going on today, and so that means I am recording to take my mind off of it. We are playing with a deck that won 6 matches on the ranked ladder, or at least purportedly won 6 matches on the ranked ladder. A giant Boros control list, which just looks wild. Maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. That's why we're doing this. We're going to find out. I'm going to run 6 matches with this deck, and we're going to see if we can recreate the 6-0. Maybe Lightning will strike twice. I've laid the deck out here, and I've tried to put the cards into various piles. I guess I didn't do it exactly right, did I? I wanted Undo Inversion there, and Emeria's Call over here. So we have our small answers: Spikefield Hazard, Skyclave Apparition, Scorching Dragonfire, Bonecrusher Giant. That can 1-for-1. We have a couple of ways to get ahead on cards in Birth of Meletus and Mazemind Tome. And then we have sweepers. We have 4 Shatter, 3 Storm's Wrath, 4 Undo Inversion, and 2 Shatter Skull Smashing. So I'm a little skeptical that a deck can possibly run 13 of this effect, but I guess we'll see. Then we have 5 small Haymakers. Elspeth and Outlaw's Merriment create tokens. And then Chandra lets us speed through our deck and potentially also pick off some small things. So this is another source of repeating card advantage. And then we have 2 big Haymakers. The one card that I don't totally understand is missing is the red-white pathway, but it's not here. We only have 14 cards that are actually lands, that are lands 100% of the time. So we also have Spikefield Hazard, Undo Inversion, Shatter Skull Smashing, and Emeria's Call for extra land drops. So we're kind of playing 28, kind of only playing 14. We have access to a couple of utility lands in Crawling Barrens and Labyrinth of Scophos. It feels like if my opponent is playing creatures, then they're going to be in for a rough time. But if they're doing just about anything else, this might not line up very well. So in the sideboard, we have a transformational plan with Robber of the Rich and Phoenix of Ash to try to go turn into a haste aggro deck. Then we have some ways to answer the graveyard, some ways to answer artifacts. I guess like the Great Henge, maybe? At this point, Lucky Clover has been banned, so that's not a card that we have to worry about. And we also have Archon of Emeria, which is intriguing, but I have absolutely no idea when we're going to want that. I guess against like Mono Blue Storm or something. Let's run this through its paces and see if we can win any games. Here we go, match 1. I'm going to play first. And we do the strange squint at our hand. How many lands do we have? We have enough land drops to get started. So we'll go Spikefield Hazard into some Births of Meletus. Opponent has mulliganed once. They are playing Luris as companion. That makes me believe that we're either playing against Cycling or some kind of Rogues deck. Cycling would be a mega disaster. Alright, we're playing against the Rogues. So let's go ahead and get some planes out of our deck before they all get milled. We're playing 5 basic planes if you want to count along at home. There goes one of them. So I see 1 in play, 1 in my hand, 1 in the graveyard. Better get this second Birth of Meletus out as quickly as possible. There's an Elspeth that they've given us access to. That's kind of nice. Bringing in Phoenix of Ash here is going to be pretty good as well. I'm not excited about a 6-drop, so we'll go ahead and... Sorry, an 8-drop. Undo Inversion is 8 mana. Destroy all non-land permanents. There are a bunch of non-bows in this deck. Skyclave Apparition does not pair very well with sweepers, but we have 13 sweepers, so that's kind of awkward. Also... Undo Inversion destroys all non-land permanents, which does not play particularly well with Outlaw's Merriment, or Ugin for that matter, right? Like, Outlaw's Merriment seems a little fragile. I don't see what we're going to Bone Crush that we couldn't just clean with a sweeper. So I'm trying to imagine what's going to happen here. They play like a Soaring Thought Thief. I can't do anything about it, and then I wind up not using my mana. So I think we just play Bonecrusher Giant. If they want to play a Thieves Guild Enforcer, whatever, I have walls that I don't care about that are just going to get shattered anyway, so that seems fine. At least I have something that I can push through the Ruin Crab. It is, in fact, a Soaring Thought Thief. No, they had both. Well, I think that my opponent played those in the wrong order. Give me access to another Elspeth. So I should play a tapped land next turn so that I can play an untapped land 6 to hit the Elspeth. We are definitely bringing in Phoenix of Ash. My intention is to just use up the walls, though my opponent doesn't seem thrilled about the trade of Thieves Guild Enforcer for Bone Crusher Giant, which I find a little bit surprising. It seems like it would be fine. So my expectation is that the first sweeper is going to get met by Drown in the Loch. The double red sweeper is actually fine since we're going to play a red land this turn. Nonetheless, I'm going to start with the attack. And let's get this one countered first. Sure. I'm actually happy to see Drown. Drown is their better spell, and they only have 4 of those. The other counterspell I'm expecting my opponent to have, since they're playing with Luris, is Lofty Denial. So you have to fill out your deck somehow if you're not playing the 3 mana spells. They must also have access to Into the Story. One card that we do not have is Elspeth Conquers Death, which would be quite good against the milling effect. Like, they're obviously juicing our graveyard.
It's not very good against Boros.
Yeah, this style of... Chapter 2 to tax, like if I could have taxed Drown in the Loch on this turn, then we would have been able to clear the board, and then obviously Chapter 3 is fine if we have like an Ugin in our graveyard or something. Okay, I'm going to hold Bone Crusher Giant back to block, and we're just going to play Elspeth. And I do not believe my graveyard matters, so I'll just exile 4 random cards. I guess the one way that my graveyard could matter is if they had access to... Vampire Scavenger or whatever it's called, the Tarmogoyf, but Luris does preclude that, so I do not... I mean, maybe they'll bring it in, but it certainly works well with the mill plan. Let's see if they care about Elspeth. Obviously, I can cast her ad infinitum. Unfortunately, I mean, it's a bajillion mana, but Emeria's Call does work well with Wraths. If you don't care about the Angels, you can give your team Indestructible. My guess is that they didn't feel like fighting over the Elspeth since she's a recurrent threat. I wonder if they care enough to clear her here. My feeling is that they shouldn't care. What? I'm afraid this attack makes no sense. Like, either kill her or don't. Okay, both at Elspeth. That seems reasonable. I'll mill 2, so I can throw away the token to keep her alive in order to give the Bone Crusher Giant +2/+2. Sorry, +2/+1. +2/+2 would be very different from +2/+1, but Elspeth only gives +2/+1, so it's not going to get the Bone Crusher Giant out of Storm's Wrath range. I guess there's no reason not to just get an extra activation out of her, since when she dies, I can just recast her. So it's like, I can double activate if I wanted to. And that's all that she does, so let's just do it. Now the goal is to tax my opponent's counterspells. So the question is, what do I think that they might care about? In the hopes that next turn we can untap an Ugin -2. I guess the card that would set them back the furthest would be Storm's Wrath. Keeping the Bone Crusher Giant in play is obviously pretty exciting in terms of getting to maybe kill the opponent in short order. Let's Storm's Wrath. Then they rebuild. Like, that seems awkward. What if they're just holding creatures in their hand? Then they kind of want the Storm's Wrath. Like, they'll follow up with another Soaring Thought Thief or whatever, and I won't be able to parry that. The other option is to play Elspeth or maybe even Emeria's Call. Like, if I honestly want something to get countered, I feel like I should play one of those two. Alright, let's play Elspeth. Again, exile 4 random cards. This is slowly eating at my graveyard, though. I don't think that there's any way that I can get myself under 8. Thassa's Intervention. Interesting. It's not the counter I was expecting from my opponent. I will say that. Now the Bone Crusher Giant is putting enough pressure on my opponent that they can't attack with the Thieves Guild Enforcer? Is that where we are? I'm excited about that prospect as well. Like, I can continue casting Elspeth for days. Maybe I go for the 2 sweepers here. No, I'm still going to save it. I'm going to try to run our opponent out of cards a little bit more first. If they're only attacking me for 2, I don't feel the need to worry yet. And I still have 22 cards in my library. Like, I will get milled out, but that's not going to happen for several turns. Elspeth resolves after some thought. Alright, so let's make some 1/1s. And I will not attack into your Death Touch creature. They cast Into the Story. That's pretty strong. They can't possibly be about to pick up Luris, are they? They're hovering over her, him. I have no idea what gender Luris is. We're on 19 in library.
Luris is an eldritch horror that transcends gender.
That's fair. Will the Enforcer get in the mix? No. Okay, we'll mill 2. Elspeth will go to 1, but that's enough that I can power up the 2 tokens and force some action, which I do like. So now if they have Drown in the Loch, it would make sense for them to pick up Luris, though they have nothing in their graveyard that matters at the moment. My opponent could just activate Castle Lockthwain. I'd appreciate that. They're doing the same check that I just did, but they also feel like, well, what else can I do with my mana? If they do pick up Luris, that's telling me that they don't have 2 pieces of interaction, because they could hold them both up if they did. So that would be a welcome piece of information. Inscription of Ruin. So just the destroy target creature with CMC 3 or less mode to kill the Bone Crusher Giant. So that does make Shatter this guy less exciting, since I won't draw a card. Alright, I'm going to attack with 2 3/2s, and we'll see what my opponent does. The answer is block. They got to do something. And they value the Ruin Crab more? No, okay, that makes more sense. Okay, down they both go. I still have a 3/2 left over. I've not played a land this turn. We have access to 2, 4, 8, 9 mana. Let's just keep the stream of Elspeths going. So this deserves to get met by a Drown in the Loch, I assume. So that's Drown in the Loch number 2, if you're keeping track, which, as you noted, I am. Opponent traded off their Ruin Crab when they had a Fabled Passage in hand. That must have felt bad. And now they're low enough on life that they don't feel like they can attack into leaving themselves exposed. Well, guess what? Here comes Elspeth again. We're down to 10 cards in graveyard. I'm going to play an Amaria's Call tapped. Elspeth resolves. Alright, let's continue making tokens. Escape cards are quite good against this rogue's deck, aren't they? I'm surprised that we haven't seen another threat from the opponent yet. They must have other creatures. If not, then they must have Into the Story. There we go. So they did not counter the Elspeth, which is threatening to flood the board on them. This rogue's deck is not playing any sort of sweepers. I'm not expecting them to, like, Miasmic Haze or whatever it's called, -2/-2 to everything. Pestilent Haze to everything. Obviously, if they had Plague Engineer, that'd be quite strong. Again, casting the Inscription on their turn does make it feel like they only had 1 piece of interaction Into the Story, but obviously our read on their hand has to get significantly worse after they've drawn 4 and refreshed the whole thing. Now are they willing to pick up Luris? We're going to untap with access to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 mana. Apparition, that's interesting. So the question now I have to answer is, how many times do I want to Elspeth pre-combat? Because I can give 2 things +2/+1, and then I could, in theory, recast Elspeth and give 2 more things +2/+1. I think I'm going to play it slower than that, though. I mean, we haven't been going too crazy here. We have 12 cards left in library. Let's just go to combat. It's possible that we might sneak through 1 point of damage, and if the opponent doesn't seem to have very much else going on, we could try to just Ugin bolt them. Heartless Act to clear 1 of the 3/2s. Now I'm expecting something like a Thieves Guild Enforcer to clear another one. Let's see how many creatures they play. Drown in the Lock. There goes a counterspell to clear another one, and then they get plinked. Okay, so then the question is, do I believe that they have another counterspell? We've seen 3 Drown in the Locks now. Wow, that's interesting. So I could just go for Ugin and the win. Or we could do like Apparition plus Elspeth or something. The danger now is that we could get milled out with 12 cards left in our library. I mean, that would take a certain combination of stuff, wouldn't it? I could also just Apparition. Yeah, let's play Elspeth plus Apparition, and then we're going to go for the kill next turn if it comes to it. Assuming I get to untap. Using the Drown in the Lock there is interesting, isn't it? We're going to see if this works. It is going to get disputed. That's fine. So Ugin would have gotten disputed as well. I believe I have 10 mana, not 11, true or false. I mean, I guess I could have played the other Ameria's Call. This is fine. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so I would have had to play Ameria's Call untapped to play around Mystical Dispute, but I honestly wasn't expecting them to have that. I was more expecting Lofty Denial, and that's a 4. So instead of 4 attacks instead of a 3. So that would have just gotten me. On the other hand, we expertly navigated around it by playing the Elspeth, didn't we? Well, now what? So their hand would have to be something like Fabled Passage, Ruin Crab, Thieves Guild Enforcer, and that's still only 10 points of deck damage. I have 12 in my hand right now. They're going to main phase into the story. You love to see that. And they're done.
Wow.
Elspeth
Nicely done.
did not conquer death, but did conquer our opponent. Okay, so let's think about what we want to do for game 2. I hate all the sweepers, but I can only do so much about that. I do like cards like Outlaw's Merriment. Like, if that could resolve, it would be pretty strong. I don't mind the red instant damage spells. Even Chandra seems okay. It can't hit Thought Thief or Ruin Crab, which is unfortunate. Probably trying to land the Spirit Dragon is ambitious. Let's cut Chandra, Ugin, 1 Storm's Wrath, and 1 Shatter the Sky. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, so that doesn't necessarily let us jam things through counter magic. It's not like we can play the first thing, make them counter it, and then do something after that. I'm going to bring in the 5 haste creatures, especially the Phoenix looks good. Robber I'm not 100% sure of, but like if you're looking at what my options are, what looks better? I mean, I could bring in Shredded Sails as an extra point and click removal for Soaring Thought Thief in particular. It's not super exciting. Let's do it like this. All right, here we go. So we have 4 red lands and a double white spell. I think this hand is still okay on the strength of Maze Mind Tome. And Dragonfire can answer one of their early creatures. I'm going to keep this. And then the other question I have to answer is what I want to do with Shatter Skull Smashing. And I think I'm going to wait as long as possible. Not that I'm excited to get hit for 3, but on the other hand, I mean, that can answer a Wind Robber, but let's get the tap lands out first. I did cut Ugins, but we still have 7s in our deck. I like seeing nothing from our opponent so far, and I also like seeing Elspeth. So go ahead, Maze Mind Tome. You're going to have to find us some white lands, and in a hurry. If I can go white land, and then play Outlaw's Merriment on time, that would be amazing. No! Sure. Obviously, against a deck that's trying to mill us, we want to wait as long as possible to scry. Plains number 2 gone. We only have 5 of those. But I am going to do it end step in any case. We might also have to do it upkeep. So let's see. If we top something, Robber. Not feeling Robber. So we'll just take a random draw. I don't feel like I can fight the Ruin Crab fight. I kind of want to just kill the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Like, that's the thing that's actually threatening. I don't care too much about my deck size. I care more about my life total. So then do I do it with Dragonfire or with Shatterskull Smashing for one? And I want to do it with Dragonfire because of Luris. This also tells me that they don't have a Thought Thief, or that they're not sequencing very tightly, because that would have been 2 more extra cards milled, if that was the case. I like that playing Crawling Barrens next turn will give us access to something to do with our mana. I mean, I guess Maze Mind Tome also is something to do with our mana. They shock. So that sounds like End of the Story, or Bolt, rather. Okay, so what can they do instant speed to mill me? Pretty much just another Thieves Guild Enforcer. Well, I don't want Mountain, so I'm not going to try to bait them into it with that. I draw another double white spell. That just seems perfect. Alright, so we'll hold up draw card. Yeah, it was in fact Into the Story. Well, we kept all red lands. I had 2 white lands, and how many Births of Meletus? 2. So like kind of 4 white sources milled off the top. Onto Inversion, there goes another one. Alright, show me a card. And I'm debating the Upkeep Scry. Like, I feel like I have to find a white land in this cycle. No, Plains. I draw another Outlaw's Merriment instead. I can't cast any of my spells. I mean, I guess I could just run the Shatterskull Smashing into a counterspell, but that doesn't seem very exciting. So let's go ahead and just draw again. Gain our 4 life. Instead, we draw double white spells. Alright, I'm feeling like I'm going to run the Shatterskull Smashing out tapped at some point. I mean, again, it answers the crab, but if I get decked, I get decked. The real question is whether I'm going to draw a white land. If you're thinking about how many sources are left in my deck, I've lost all of my Onto Inversions, 3 of my Plains, 4 of my Plains. Amarius Calls, that's the other thing I'm supposed to be counting up. We haven't lost any of those, so there's still 4 Amarius Call in our deck. I can't do anything. I mean, I could turn this into a 2-2 and attack into their 0-3, but that doesn't seem particularly useful. Yep. And we have 6 double white spells in our hand. This is the kind of game that people use to justify playing mill decks. Maybe you'll mill all their white lands. Yeah, maybe you will. 2 Phoenixes of Ash. Okay, now we're talking. I was complaining I had nothing to do with my mana, right? There goes 2 of the Amarius Calls. So we're down to 2 Plains, 2 Amarius Call. That's the only way to produce white mana in our deck. And they're going to cling them both to dust. Oh, I'm going to get duressed? Sure.
Take whatever you want, opponent. We can't cast them.
Opponent's thinking, like, what of these cards could possibly matter? I think the answer is none of them. That was pretty rough that we put draw a card on the stack with Plains on top of our deck, and we didn't get it. Yep. Away goes the other Phoenix. So that was 2 of our 3 Phoenixes. The opponent is basically tapped out, which I find kind of funny. I mean, they know that we have nothing going on, and we actually have no prospects for having anything going on. Mountain. Alright, I will take the action this time. I wonder if my opponent can actually deal with this Crawling Barrens. If they have Heartless Act, they cannot. They presumably have Drown in the Loch somewhere. There goes Birth of Meletus, which was kind of a white land, but we couldn't cast it. We're on what, 15? Yeah, so they must know that they're supposed to hold up Drown now. And Cling is an instant, so as soon as this thing is dead, then they can Cling it. I'm not going to bother putting mana into this Phoenix, because they could just respond by killing it. And I want to have the ability to continue charging up the Crawling Barrens. Thieves Guild Enforcer resolves. There goes another Mary's Call. We're down to 3 white sources in the stack. Yep, it was a Heartless Act. So now they have to cling. Oh, duress again, but you know all my cards. What does that do? That play didn't make any sense. They trying to get cards out of their... Oh, they needed to get cards into their graveyard so that they could cling. That makes sense now.
Oh, that does make sense.
Thought Thief. Yep. There goes Plains 4. There goes Amaria's Call. We're down to 1 white source. I believe there's 1 Plains left in our deck. Not going to turn it into a creature to just give their Drown in the Lock something to do. Trying to avoid that. There's the Drown. Okay, that resolves. Now they're tapped out. So now we hit them for 8. I mean, there's like no way, right? We have 4 cards left, so they just have to play a land and then attack us. Okay, you got it. Well, that was frustrating. Let's go to game 3. Here we go, game 3. Let's take the play. We have a white source. That's a start, and we also have Birth of Meletus, so we're going to be okay on both our colors for a change, and we have access to Elspeth. I like all of this. Oh, I was supposed to lead on a Mary's Call. I don't like that part of it, though. I was supposed to go a Mary's Call into a mountain, I guess. Oh well, let's shock. Opponent probably thinking they're not going to get a free one like they did last game. Outlaw's Merriment would have been nice, incidentally. I haven't seen that card yet. Imagine if we could start pinging down their 1/1s. Running the old no attacks. Possibly a little hasty from our opponent there. So we'll hold up our 2 pieces of interaction. If they play a Soaring Thought Thief, I will Scorch it. And otherwise, we'll just end step stomp this Thieves Guild Enforcer. Putting in the graveyard is a little awkward, but I don't really care if they eventually play Lurrus. We have so many sweepers. Okay, let's just get this counted then. Oh, they're just going to play the Soaring Thought Thief to mill us too. Okay, that's fine. Phoenix of Ash, interesting. Okay, we have some options. We can just put a Phoenix on the battlefield and pass. We could Scorch, we could Storm's Wrath, we could Elspeth. Kind of like Elspeth, because that sets us up to Phoenix plus... Oh, well, I guess we don't have all of the reds for this. I was going to say it sets us up to Phoenix plus Scorch next turn, but I guess we need a red source for that. Stupid Crawling Barrens. Like imagine we go Phoenix plus on the Phoenix, and then Scorch down your Thought Thief. That seems quite good. I'm not looking to let Elspeth die quite yet because of Cling. There's a white source, but this time I'm actually looking for a red. Another Phoenix, interesting. Okay, so let's just actually -1, force them to attack Elspeth again, since we'll be able to put up some defense against that. So maybe that means I just Bone Crusher and hold up this Scorching Dragonfire. We're on enough cards in our graveyard that they could end the story if they wanted to, but they're going to Heartless Act instead. Okay. That is fine. Yep. And connect. Okay, so then we'll go 1, 2, 3 Bone Crusher Giant and put a stop on their upkeep. Unless this gets countered, in which case we'll just Dragonfire right now. Oh wow, it did get drowned. Okay, well goodbye forever. And I can take off the stop. I'm happy with all of that. And we're just going to leave Elspeth on the battlefield at 1 until we're ready to do something with her Maze Mind Tome off the top. Alright. Oh, oh, that's okay. Phoenix first, then Tome. So if they have like, yeah, Jawari Disruption or Mystical Dispute, they can hit that, but that's okay. I guess we could be running our token into a Thought Thief, but apparently we are not. And yeah, so they don't have a Flash Rogue because there's no reason why they wouldn't have played it right there. Let's try to do this a little bit more wisely than our last attempt. That resolves after a moment. I guess they have a Fable Passage that they can crack. See, I am willing to let the second Phoenix get countered. I don't feel like we can necessarily avoid that. And the Phoenix can get recast next turn, so that would force them to cling right now. And if one of their cards is a cling and they're not using it to cycle, that would be fine with me. Now we're getting to the point where Elspeth does represent +4 damage, which might be relevant, even if we don't find the 6th land to immediately recast her. They're going to end this story and take 5. Okay, so no Thieves Guild Enforcer, since that would have eaten the token. So they've got some work to do because they have to not just clear the Phoenix, but then answer the Phoenix out of the graveyard if they want to get rid of it, and we also have 2 of them. Let's not forget to Maze Mine Tome, but we do have to be patient on this cry since they have instant speedways to mill us. Land and nothing else. Alright. I'm going to scry any untapped land at the top. Actually, I'm going to leave Phoenix on top too. Let's see if... I was kind of hoping that that might bait them into acting. Okay, so this puts our opponent in a predicament because if this resolves, then Elspeth is becoming dangerous. But if they... you know what? Elspeth is dangerous, but 3 Phoenix of Ash is also pretty dangerous, so we're just going to attack. This is a lot to deal with. They're just going to end the story again. So they didn't have any rogues at the opportunity to play rogues last time. They at least have a Thieves Guild Enforcer. They do. Okay, so it's going to eat my token, but they're going to take 6 in the air. And go to 3. Then we're going to end step draw off of our Maze Mine Tome. And present lethal in a variety of ways. So with Elspeth plussing on 2 of them and the other one getting pumped, we have 3 problems for our opponent, and they're going to need to spend an individual card on each of them, which is a tall ask. Ruin Crab does not answer any, so now they're down to 5 mana, which is going to make this even harder. It has to be like land. I guess they played Crab because they're going to play land, but then they need like 3 either Soaring Thought Thieves or Drown in the Loch, Heartless Act, that kind of thing. Pass to attackers, then I will draw. We draw Mountain. Untap and draw Mary's Call. Okay, so we'll go ahead and play Mountain, and now it's finally time to cash in Elspeth on 2 of the Phoenixes. They cling Elspeth to dust and gain 3 life. Oh. No, it's gain 3 life for creatures, right? So this just drew them a card. Okay, great. Then I don't know, attack you? I have 2 pumps. So anything that gets through is quite lethal. There's the Soaring Thought Thief. But they can't have the Drown in the Loch as well. They would have cast it already. I think they're dead. Maybe they want to...
2 other pieces of interaction, right?
That's right. Yeah, they block 1. And then they explode. Hey, we're 1-0.
Yay!
Back.
Victory!
Back for match 2 in a minute. Okay, match number 2, and we're looking at our hand, and it actually has 3 mana sources even though there are no lands. We have double white, not double red, but we do also have an apparition. I think I'm going to keep this hand. Our opponent has mulliganed once. They're playing Song of Creation sleeves. That probably is bad news. Temple of Plenty. Alright, so they could be playing the Wicked Wolf deck. Well, we're just going to play tap lands for a little bit. Trail of Crab. So it is, in fact, Selesnya. Yorion food, whatever you want to call it. Skyclave Apparition can answer Trail of Crumbs, and that's my intention next turn. So we'll shock on Ameria's Call, or again, bolt on Ameria's Call to answer it. Now we also have to answer that. we got to do something. I'm not going to Spike Field Hazard my opponent's head. Land, pay 3 life. This comes onto the battlefield. You get out of here. Alright, 1 down, 3 to go. Well, kind of 1 to go at the moment. Now they play Wicked Wolf and eat it. Nope, okay, guess not. Start with an attack. So we can't actually handle Wicked Wolf as it currently stands.
Ooh, I like this though.
Yeah, they're going to double block and we're going to blow them out. Which, I kind of like lands right now.
Sure.
So I'm going to play the Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about getting up to Ugin eventually.
Okay, see how there was a footprint?
Yeah.
I literally just noticed that like 2 days ago.
I have not played a land yet this turn. I'm going to play the other Spike Field Hazard and we'll pass. So with 2 foods in play, Scorching Dragonfire is not enough to beat Wicked Wolf. ECD. Okay, that is fine. They've turned Trail of Crumbs into a 2/2 thing. Well, I'm going to be playing lands, or set like Shatter Skull Smashings here, I guess. So the question is, do I bolt again in order to like stomp plus Scorching Dragonfire? It doesn't seem super necessary. Obviously, I had to make that decision kind of at sorcery speed, since the ECD was going to tax me. And it's a good last card to have. Storm's Wrath is not going to be able to answer the 4/5 Yorion, which is kind of unfortunate. They did not attack the 2/2. Okay. I mean, this is kind of what my opponent has, right? So I'm thinking about next turn. We could plan to both Storm's Wrath and Scorching Dragonfire to clear all of their creatures. If we do that, we can even Scorch to exile the Yorion, so the ECD is not going to do anything, except we are getting taxed. So that's not going to work.
This turn you're taxed. Oh, you're taxed again.
I'm taxed again next turn.
Sorry.
So that means that I'm just going to play a land, and I'm going to give up on 1 card worth of Maze Mind Tome equity to not take 3 extra damage, since it looks like I'm going to get pounded here. So I can Storm's Wrath, but that leaves a Yorion on the battlefield, which is a little unfortunate. They can start cracking food to look for action. If they find a Charming Prince, that would obviously be quite bad. They found Kogla, the Titan Ape. I mean, that eventually will disenchant my Maze Mind Tome, I guess, but that card is a 6. So if I Storm's Wrath this turn, then I'm only on the hook for 4. On the following turn, ECD will shed itself with no targets. Then they presumably play Kogla. Let's hope they brick. They're going to end step, find another card. Let's hope that the best thing they can do is like Kogla or something, and then we can Ugin and wash it all away. I think that's what we need to play towards. But that means I need 1 more land still. And there it is. I like that. So I'm going to play Ameria's Call tapped here and Storm's Wrath. And then next turn, we can Mountain Ugin. Okay, so hold your breath on what they find with this food, because if they find Charming Prince, they'll be able to reset ECD, and that would be quite bad. Though I guess they wouldn't be able to tax me even if they did that, right? They could find Chapter 1 again. Oh, and the ECD was getting shed anyway. Okay, never mind. Everything's fine. We're good. Everything's good. I mean, I'm at, like, not much life, but everything's good. They did find a Charming Prince. So that's actually a disaster because then the Trail of Crumbs isn't going to be in the battlefield when I untap. But they don't play Kogla here, which I do appreciate. Because if they had played Kogla, I would be forced to -6 the Ugin, and then Yorion would clear it. But now, presumably, they just like slide out the rest of their hand of their. So the Charming Prince is still gonna kill Ugin if I play it. But otherwise, I do need to find an answer to the Yorion, which we presently don't have. Like, if we drew into a Shatter the Sky or something, that would be pretty useful. Obviously, Ugin plus the Scorching Dragonfire would do it, but we don't have that kind of mana. I mean, I have to break up the loop. What else can I do? So this will eat the Yorion. A Goose and a Charming Prince will come back. Prince will take down Ugin. They're one short of killing me because of the Omen of the Sun, but I don't see the last point of damage yet. I mean, honestly, I'm going to stop Giant Ape from going nuts on my face, but I mean, I can jump block it with Elspeth for a little bit. They find a Wicked Wolf. I mean, I haven't shown them a single creature. I wonder how many of these cards are going to wind up in their deck after game 1. Presumably they only have so much they can take out. They've also seen Storm's Wrath now, so they know that having an indestructible creature or potentially just a 5/5 would be acceptable. Alright, we go to 3, Ugin down. Llanowar Visionary, so they're not... they can also play Wolf, if that is what they want to do. It is not. Interesting. Re-Ugin would be quite something, wouldn't it? Bottom that and draw Scorching Dragonfire. Okay.
You have 4 life rolled up in the Maze Mind Tome.
This is a fact. So I'm at an effective 7. We're going to play Elspeth, Maker of Chump Blockers. And hold up 2 Scorching Dragonfires / a Maze Mind Tome card. So they should just crack food for mana and then funnel the mana into Trail of Crumbs, which is what they do. I mean, maybe this is where I kill the Goose. Can I afford to kill the Goose is, I guess, the question. So we have 2 blocks here, but they have 2 fight spells. So they found a Yorion. This is all academic then. Right, this also runs into the problem that we had previously of now even finding an Ugin is not going to do anything because their cards are not going to be on the battlefield on my turn. Skyclave Apparition as well. So that can hit either of my permanents, though hitting Maze Mind Tome doesn't accomplish anything. It cannot hit the tokens. Yep. I mean, I could just try to scorch this here. They spend a food on it. None of this seems good. Let's just go to game 2. Like, suppose I, in quotation marks, win that exchange, then they just play Yorion and I'm screwed. Okay, I again don't seem to like Chandra. Though, I mean, they have targets. They have, like, Llanowar Visionaries and stuff, but it doesn't seem like I'm getting quite enough out of her. She can give me cards, but, I mean, I don't even know if Phoenix is good. Am I trying to race my opponent, or what? Am I trying to just limit the amount of things they can do? Alright, let's shave a Storm's Wrath. And I'm going to try the Archons just to see. I mean, they're here for some reason. Alright, game 2. We actually drew one. Interesting. So I've got double white and a Shatter, as well as some things to do. I think we keep this hand. And lead like this. Alright, alright. So we're doing fine on mana quantity, not on mana quality yet. So we want to see something like a goose that we can stomp, rather than a trail of crumbs. Yep. Now on the flip side, we want to see like an apparition. Alright, I'm just going to play Bone Crusher here. And try to put some pressure on my opponent while they're setting up. This card could have, I guess, been like a Phoenix of Ash or something, but... So I realized after I neglected to play Archon that they could, in theory, have been messed up in their mana development if I had forced a non-basic land to enter the battlefield tapped. Like, imagine they had another pathway that they were expecting to use for mana that turn. But... they elected to play a tap land anyway, which is convenient. Sure. Yep. Well, wolf is unquestionably a problem. It's even awkward that I can't kill it with a Shadow of the Sky, right? Like, not only can I not kill it, I'd just be giving my opponent a card. So I could use a Shatter Skull Smashing just to tap it. Is that good? Do I want that? I think we pass. I'm hoping to cast Amaria's Call. That's my end game this game. I had some regrets as to not bringing in Robber at the beginning of this game when I saw Archon in my hand. But imagine how that would have gone. I would have maybe gotten one card off of it, and then they would have just eaten it for free. They find a goose. Down goes the Bone Crusher. Now, will my opponent get greedy and attack? Oh, I actually don't want to do this. I want to use the Bone Crusher on the goose. Well, they only have one food left over here, huh? It's just so miserable to shatter and not kill their big one and have them draw the card off of it. But, like, what else? What else are we doing? I'm trying to tax them on food. That's my goal. But I still want to stomp the goose. I think that we just... Like, I could shatter this guy right here. That would clear one of the Wicked Wolves. Actually, don't hate that, because this is going to force them to crack a food while they're tapped out. So they're not going to get a card off of it. I mean, look at the Shatter the Sky card, but they're not going to get a card of their choosing. And then we'll untap, bolt ourselves, and play Mary's Call. It's a little unfortunate we don't have any creatures to gain indestructible when we do that. Like, it would be nice if the... Oh, Vivian. If the... Bone Crusher Giant had been in play to become indestructible, but this thing's a 5/5, so that would just soak up some damage. But that's about it. They did not play the goose, incidentally. So I will just go ahead... I mean, I think this game's a race. Skyclave Apparition. Ooh, that's intriguing. It's like, that can't clear Vivian, but that could just suck up the Wicked Wolf. What if we did that? What if we played our 2 3-drops this turn and played the Shatter Skull Smashing tapped? Okay, I'm in for that. Then Amaria's Call would do something. So presumably they'll like apparition me back. They're gonna play Yorion and then fetch a Wicked Wolf or something. That seems unbeatable. Oh, they're gonna fetch an apparition. Sure, just get this loop going, and that'll clear both of my creatures. That's funny that they didn't want the 4/4 right away. So they should slide out their whole board. And instead of them getting a... 4/4, I got a 3/3. So now that stuff comes back, and they have to clear the other apparition. It's the only target. Labyrinth of Scophos. Just what the doctor ordered. I guess there's not really any reason to slow roll the land, since we could potentially draw a Maze Mind Tome into something. Like if there's a chance that we might put 2 lands on the battlefield and draw, 2 cards in a future turn, then we want to get our lands out. So Vivian is recharged, which means that she could minus, and then a 3-drop would let them go find a Charming Prince, and that pretty much ends the game. Oh, they just have the Charming Prince. Well, amusingly, they can't actually clear any of my creatures with the Skyclave Apparition. This one had reach. This one should also have reach. So my angels are not getting through. If I do draw Ugin, I'm going to have to clear all of my angels. Opponent's looking at how Amaria's Call works. The creature that had been on the battlefield is indestructible. The angels are not given indestructible. I would call us Megadad. I guess they could accidentally over-remove cards. That was a lot of stuff to go away. They have the ability to crack 1 food. I can't Apparition the Yorion, though. That's disappointing. But there's no reason not to attack. Oh, I guess they have a lot more things that block flyers than I gave them credit for. Retracted. I was thinking if I attack, they can block 1 with Yorion, and I can remove Yorion from combat. But the attacks do not look good. I'm not sure why they left 1 trail. There's 2 other trails waiting to come back in the Yorion zone. But I'll gladly eat 1 if you leave it there for me. Well, that was painful. Yeah, I don't think there was any way we were beating that. Okay, 1-1. Let's go to match number 3. Okay, match number 3. We are on the play. And we can actually cast an Outlaw's Merryman on time. I mean, that's what I came here for. So let's plan to do that. Obviously, double Ugin is a little awkward. Playing against someone who's medium-high platinum is a little awkward. But whatever. Let's eat and be merry. I haven't seen the flash on my opponent's hand to indicate that they might be present. Oh, no, here they are, finally. Okay, great. Then let's start with the Spikefield Hazard. So we do need double white, so I can't attempt to hold the Amaria's Call. However, now that I have something to do with my 2 mana, there's no reason to play it. Here, Scavenging Ooze. I mean, I'm not super afraid of that, but for mana efficiency reasons, let's just get rid of it. Oh, interesting. Okay, so now I will hold the Amaria's Call for land number 5 or later, if we can help it. Sure, Mammoth. Onto Inversion off the top. Okay, well, I mean, I guess I have medium regrets that I would have had the opportunity potentially to clear the Mammoth instead. I think I would be happier with that. This is going to hit pretty hard. At least it doesn't trample, right? But yeah, we're taking 7 this turn. And our only sweeper costs a lot of mana. At least they don't also have a questing beast. So the black-green deck I'm familiar with is Adventures. It does not appear to be what's going on over there. Okay, so I have Labyrinth active. So I don't mind attacking with my haste creature here. I'm expecting my opponent will make their next land drop. So even if they play a questing beast, we're going to be taking the Mammoth out of combat. I wonder if they want to use a card on my token. They do. Interesting. Okay. We're definitely playing onto Inversion next turn as a land, hoping to set up for a Marius Call the turn after. Let's see what the follow-up is. It is both halves of a Lovestruck Beast, sure. That's a miss on the token. How sweet would it have been if we had hit the 1/2 that pings when it enters the battlefield? We could have just taken their token out. I would have enjoyed that. So we can play Shatter Skull Smashing for 3, which would clear the Mammoth. I don't think that's quite as exciting as just taking the Lovestruck Beast out of combat, so that's my plan. Yeah, there's nothing I can really do about that. Or that. So we'll take 4 this turn, go to 9. Hope to find a land for a Marius Call, and otherwise we'll just shatter and clear these 2 creatures. They have 2 green mana left over from the Great Henge. Can they use it for anything? The old post-combat mana source? They can't. Hey, we just go first mode, then second mode, then third mode, huh? We drew a Bone Crusher Giant. So we're 1 mana short of playing a Marius Call. I don't think that we should miss our land drop. I think that would be pretty bad. So I'm just going to play Shatter Skull Smashing tapped, and pass with Labyrinth still up. They only have 1 attacker at the moment. We do have access to Stomp if it comes to it. The only thing that I would want to stomp, yeah, Innkeeper is fine. The only thing I would actually want to stomp is a Heart's Desire token, because that would let the 5/5 attack. But at the moment they can't actually attack with more than just the Mammoth, and attacking with the Mammoth doesn't actually accomplish anything. I guess I had a couple of opportunities there to stomp the Edgewell Innkeeper, and maybe I should just take that. So the opponent was correct to attack and force me to use my mana. Since it is tempting to just be resigned to the fact that your creature is going to get removed from combat. But the fact that they did that made me decide between labyrinthing their creature or stomping their Innkeeper. And I would much rather clear the card draw engine and whatever, they got one of my tokens. Like, that's not a big deal. Another ping. Nothing good to do with that. Send it up top. I am feeling pressure to close this game out quickly because they can obviously draw a ton of cards. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and make the 2 angels. And now I have an indestructible blocker as well, which I will hold back. And then our intention is to hit them in the air as frequently as we can. And potentially use Ugin to, like, I think the first Ugin use will be to bolt down the Kazandu Mammoth. And after that, we will be going upstairs. But Ugin can't clear the Great Henge. This is a 9. So I think we just ignore that and hope that they don't do anything that's actually scary. Because them playing a bunch of 3-drops is not scary when we have these flyers. Agadeem's Awakening just to get back the Edgewell Innkeeper. Okay. And then they found Order of Midnight, which they don't have any creatures in their graveyard, so that's just a cantrip, and then draw another card. And there's the post-combat Questing Beast. Okay. Well, that was certainly a lot of stuff. We have the ability to ping something. I don't really care where this goes. I guess we're going upstairs. We drew onto Inversion, which we awkwardly cannot cast. Okay, so this turn is like hold on for dear life. And we're going to get our 8th mana source here. I think we'll do an okay job holding on for dear life. So we have 4 blockers. They have 5 attackers. Lovestruck Beast, not an attacker. They have 4 attackers. We can like remove the Questing Beast from combat if we wanted to do that. And then we're going to have a kind of powerful turn of blow up the world. While Ugin cannot... Oh, sure. While Ugin cannot clear the Great Henge, onto Inversion most certainly can. So we can go onto Inversion, pretty much devastate them. Like, if their last card in hand is like Agadeem's Awakening or something, then that would obviously be a problem. But otherwise... And this attack is certainly interesting. I don't quite know what to make of it. So I'm going to block, and plan to Labyrinth. I'm on blocks, right? So this is up to me. So maybe their last card is in another Order of Midnight, and they want to kind of spin the wheel. Like, first Alter Fate. No, okay, never mind. Well, I'm drawing a bunch of pingers, aren't I? Sure. Make a wall that's just going to immediately go away. And then I think we just invert. And I will make my land drop go. So now all their synergy is broken up. If they have another copy of Agadeem's Awakening, then we could be in trouble. Wow, Questing Beast into the Great Henge. That is synergy right there. So we're going to go Ugin -4 and hope that they brick. Oh. Yeah, okay. Will Storm's Wrath plus Bone Crusher Giant. Since this way we could play around a haste creature better. Right, like if we had gone Ugin to clear their Questing Beast, then if they drew another one off the top, it would come in with an extra +1/+1 counter, or if they had some way to like regrow it. But now they do not. They don't just get to hit me. They found a Foulmire Knight, so that represents a further 2 cards. And that also represents a target for Ugin's Plus. Though I might care about that more, huh? I guess Ugin clears them both. As does this Storm's Wrath, but we're going to be kind of patient with that one. The advantage to Plus is that then I could potentially -9, which would feel good, but I don't think that I can leave that many creatures in play when I'm at 5 life. So let's go ahead and just take them both out. They have a Murderous Rider. That makes sense. And again, I don't really want to die to a Questing Beast, if I can help it. Well, then there's a Rankle, and I couldn't really help that. Okay. We struggled for a while, but land 8 was ultimately 1 turn too late, and they had enough creatures on top of their deck on the turn that they untapped with the Great Henge, and they couldn't do anything about it. So, all right, that must be the reason that Shredded Sails is here, to kill cards like the Great Henge. Similarly, I don't hate Archon. I also don't hate Soul Guide Lantern, but I don't know that this is necessarily the matchup for it. What cards don't appear to be great? I mean, against, like, the ground is going to be gunked up. That is just the way that Black-Green operates. So that makes me less interested in cards like Elspeth and even Outlaw's Merriment. I don't think that I'm going to win the game by attacking that in that manner. I think my goal needs to be to kind of go over the top and try to slow down their synergy. So I don't hate Shredded Sails with the intention of trying to clear the Great Henge. Obviously, they have multiples. And it's probably safe to take one of the 7 Wraths out. Let's take out a Storm's Wrath since it misses Lovestruck Beast always, and then can also miss Mammoth if they hold up a Fabled Passage. Game 2, let's take the play. We have a red source, so this hand looks fine. I think we need to lead on this. And then we'll base our turn 2 play on what they do on turn 1. They're playing a tap land, so we can get the Birth of Meletus down. They're not going to pressure us into a quick Scorching Dragonfire. When I'm playing black-green, I'm always looking to have the Edgewell Innkeeper plus Foulmire Knight turn 2. That always feels good. This is different from that. Sure. I mean, that makes sense. That's the one card that does something different from the other cards. But that doesn't deter me from continuing to Birth of Meletus, so I appreciate that. Now, I have 4 other lands in my hand. I feel like I'm not actually pressured into playing this Spikefield Hazard. So let's hold off on that as long as we can. Ooh, I like that one. I like that one a lot. This feels like playing a treasure map in the old mid-range mirrors where you were allowed to do that. Wow. Did they bring in Wilt for Outlaw's Merriment? Because if so, they got me. I'll at least get my 1 card back for that. But this is a card that doesn't attack me, so I appreciate that I'm getting the opportunity to set up. Sure. Okay, so we have a couple of choices here. We can either 2-for-1 ourselves to clear the questing beast, but then it will be gone forever. Or we could shatter and essentially 1-for-2 ourselves. I kind of prefer the former. Let's see what else they have. I'm actually going to go ahead and take the 4 here. Sure, Profane Insight. Okay. Basically, I don't want to let too much time go by with an Edgewell Innkeeper in play, so that's what I was trying to avoid. I guess in retrospect, this was a terrible decision because 4 plus 5 would have been enough to play the Great Henge, so I'm probably supposed to just clear it in combat. Then again, maybe I just clear it. At sorcery speed on my turn is the absolute best answer. Since if they get a chance to untap, then they are free to use it. Okay, so we have activate Crawling Barrens and subsequent to that Scorching Dragonfire if we need it. Otherwise, we're just going to end step add 2 counters. I wasn't expecting Outlaw's Merriment to look good, but I mean, if I had one to play right now, I think it would actually be pretty solid. There are no creatures in either graveyard. You may have a Scavenging Ooze. Then again, if I did have that Outlaw's Merriment, probably would have just gotten wilted, huh? Yeah, that's all I got. Mm-hmm. Game actions are being taken on both sides. That's, I think, the best that we can say. So far, the most frustrating thing that's happened, or like the kind of biggest leverage play, was them wilting my Maze Mind Tome. That actually kind of mattered. Now they meaninglessly take cards from my graveyard. I'm surprised they're electing to do this over activating Castle Locthwain. I feel like that might actually do something, and this kind of clearly does not do anything. Innkeeper. Okay, so this is where we need to do something. Awkwardly for our opponent, they played both their Foulmire Knights last turn, including one without using Profane Insight. So they presumably could have dug their way to that Edgewell Innkeeper, possibly in time to get another card. My expectation is that our opponent has a Murderous Rider, and since I have exactly 8 lands, I don't want to walk into it. that onto inversion is earmarked for the Great Henge. Okay, now they're going to start activating. I wonder if they're going to get impatient with the Murderous Rider and just clear a wall. I would appreciate that. Less to worry about in terms of the shatter this guy. Now here they all come. Okay, so what does this mean? Are they like baiting me into the counterattack? Because I'm actually not going to take it. Shredded Sails. So that can answer Rankle, which I like. Our goal is to find Ugin. Like that's, yeah, I did get them to use Murderous Rider, where I don't know that they were supposed to. I mean, I'm still not going to play this thing until Hagra Mauling. Okay. We're going to be patient with the Dragonfire since it does answer Rankle. I guess so does the Shredded Sails, but I'm attempting to avoid getting hit by a haste creature I don't have to get hit by. So I'll take 2 to 10. They're going to add a Murderous Rider to the board. Or not. Not as cool. Another Shatter. Okay, well, this has gone down in value. Let's just make them do something. Profane Insight. You want a castle as well? Guess not. Agonizing Remorse is also fine. Joke's on you, opponent. I've got nothing going on, but I can answer whatever you want to play. So onto inversion, threaten to answer creatures and the Great Henge simultaneously. Now I can only answer creatures and the Great Henge individually. Murderous Rider. So are they dead if I draw land? Is that where we are? It would be nice if I drew a land, but I'm unfortunately one short. Oh, off the top, no problem. So we go white, white, red, red, shatter the sky, and then attack for 14. I hope you appreciated my patience in that game. All right, on the draw. So now that I've seen Agonizing Remorse from my opponent, I'm less interested in bringing in cards like Phoenix of Ash or Elspeth, though obviously I think they would have been fine at various points in that last game. They had the opportunity to go after me with that discard spell, and if those cards had been anywhere, they would have been exiled. So that's kind of frustrating. I don't love Robber, given that their plan should be to put like 3/3s and 5/5s on the battlefield that would block it pretty well. I honestly don't hate Merriment since I was just kind of sitting there that game, but I mean, I think that's really the strategy of the deck, so we should probably just steer into the skid. All right, what do we got? We've got 3 mana sources and a sweeper. Yeah, I mean, that's what I signed up for. I like that we have the Ugin out there as our stretch goal, but I would be surprised if we survived that long. I mean, if it survived in our hand that long, I think it's probably going to get discarded. So we'll go Mountain Dragonfire. They don't have the great turn of, oh, Innkeeper plus Foulmire Knight, but they do have Innkeeper. So given that I have nothing to do next turn, I think we're just going to Scorch the Innkeeper right here. Then they'll play the Lovestruck Beast. I'll play Birth of Meletus. And then I'll Storm's Wrath to clear the 1/1s so that the Lovestruck Beast cannot continue to attack me. Hitting all of our land drops is crucial this game since we're going to try to get to Ugin as quickly as we can. So, alright, let's go Emeria's Call tapped, and then Birth of Meletus finding a Plains. Pass. Next turn we'll Shatter the Sky. And then hope that whatever they follow up with, we can Storm's Wrath. So land 4, Shatter. Land 5, Storm's Wrath. Land 6 in my hand. Then we've got 2 more to go to reach the Ugin. I guess the card I most want to see right now is Shredded Sails. I wouldn't mind seeing Onto Inversion either. It's actually not clear to me whether I'm supposed to Storm's Wrath or Shatter. The thing about playing Storm's Wrath is that they're going to have a hard time activating their Love-Struck Beast, like enabling it to attack. So I basically want to avoid giving them cards as long as possible, since their cards will snowball while they have the Great Henge in play. So I am purposefully leaving this 5/5 on the battlefield. Really, the purpose of the Love-Struck Beast was to get the Great Henge in play in the first place. And guess what? That Storm's Wrath wasn't clearing this Questing Beast anyway. So I'll go to 8, gain 2 life to 10, clear the board again. Okay, we don't just die on the spot to Heroic Intervention. I appreciate that. But they do have another Questing Beast, which is not good. So I'm going to have to find something to do about that right now. I would accept Bone Crusher Giant. This doesn't matter. Like, they could take the Ugin, but I'm still several turns away from that anyway. The game will be decided earlier. Scorching Dragonfire. It's not quite it, is it? I mean, what can I do except draw a card? Where were you? All right. We did. 1 and 2. This didn't feel great either, to be honest. Slightly better than the Yorion match that we just played where we got slaughtered. But you would think that a deck that had like as many board wipes as it did would have had a better time against this sort of a strategy. But they're just all clunky. Like, the threats are better than those answers. I'm letting my opponent play spells in case they have some daily quest that requires them to play spells, but that's enough now. I'll see you for match 4 in a moment. Here we go on the play in match number 4. We don't have a red source. We saw how that went for us. Match 2 where we were missing a color, and we tried to rely on Maze Mind Tome, but I haven't learned my lesson, so let's try it. I do like that we have 2 Births of Meletus, which can fetch us more mana sources. I don't like drawing a colorless source and discovering that we're playing against Love-Struck Beast, because that probably means we're also going to face down Questing Beast, which is this deck's Kryptonite. Indatha Triome. So is this some kind of like Abzan Doomfortold deck of some sort? It's going to be pretty good. We don't have very many permanents. We mainly just have sorceries that sweep the board. Alright, they play Love-Struck Beast. So our options are get hammered for 6 and set up either a Maze Mind Tome or the Birth of Meletus, or Scorch the token. We do have 2 mana sources in our hand, so that's not a crazy thing to do. If we don't play a permanent, then we're kind of setting up to get Doom Foretold did. I don't know. Nothing looks good here. I guess I usually err on the side of taking early hits to try to set up with a deck that has kind of a low power level. So let's Play the Birth. It is Rankle. Well, I'm glad I saved my Scorching Dragonfire. So we're probably both going to be discarding. There's no way I'm going to get value out of this second Maze Mine Tome, so let's just toss that one. We'll make a wall. So our options are Scorch, Rankle, and then like plan to block here, though we haven't given our opponent an opportunity to use a removal spell. So it's not clear, like they could potentially just untap Bloodchief's Thirst and hit us down to 1. Or we could just Shatter. Like, I understand we're giving them a card, which feels bad, but hopefully this will get them off our back for a turn. No, never mind. On the plus side, I guess we can start Mazavithing it, but that's all of our mana. Okay, so let's say we Shatter this turn. And the next turn we potentially double spell with like the Birth of Meletus and Scorching Dragonfire, and then we could play the land from the Birth of Meletus, and then we would have to find one more mana source in order to play Mary's Call. This feels bad. I don't like the optics of that Shatter. Like, they have so many extra cards now, and we don't have any way to deal with the third wave here. Vivian. I mean, on the plus side, that doesn't attack us right now. Vivian is now on 4, so Storm's Wrath off the top would be intriguing, except, of course there's an except, we don't have double red because of the friggin' Labyrinth. Outlaw's Merriment instead. Alright, not the most obvious choice for a double spell, but I'm gonna take it. I mean, we're dead to so many things. I don't know if scorching their token to avoid dying to a Questing Beast or a Rankle was necessarily that much better. We could have played the Maze Mine Tome and drawn a card instead of playing Outlaw's Merriment, but I don't feel like that's super exciting. Like, at least this way we could potentially like accomplish something. We could draw, like, it could create a 2-1 with lifelink that might keep us alive a little bit. Or potentially a 3-1 that can trade with Vivian's tokens. They did correctly assume I was going to play a 3-1 factory and made their creature trample. Usually in the dark, my Vivians are making Vigilant Beasts, so I'm a little surprised that they got that answer correct. I don't totally understand why the opponent needs to use timeouts here. Pretty much they could click at random and beat me. Alright, I take 3 to 4. And they have Polukranos. Yikes. I did make that 2-1 with lifelink. I think that we're going to have to remove Polukranos from combat. That's the only way we're going to stay alive. And I'm going to play Emeria's Call tapped because we now have to find land 8 for Ugin. That's the only way we're going to survive. So we can block, and then maze the Polukranos and take essentially 0 damage, right? This gets trampled over for 2, but it gains us 2 life back. Opponents digging in their graveyard. Do they have Agadeem's Awakening? They do, and that should settle this. Where did Order of Midnight come from? Oh, they discarded it to their Rankle, I assume. I don't totally understand why they elected to get that over the Questing, or why they got the Questing Beast over the Rankle, but I guess it doesn't matter because we can't win. That's a pretty powerful argument to do whatever you want. We wind up at 1. Oh, actually, wait a second. Can we draw an untapped land for Ugin? Because that would be kind of cute. Skyclave Apparition. Well, that's a shame. That would have been a hell of a way to stabilize. Yeah, let's go to game 2. This is where we will look at our sideboard and wish that we had cards like Elspeth Conquers Death, Soul Seer, Thundering Rebuke, anything that can answer a 4/4 questing beast, and we just don't have one. I still don't understand Chandra. You can get out of there. What am I hoping to bring in? I mean, it's not clear to me that the opponent is also playing the Great Henge. It looks like they're just kind of a mid-range trade binder deck. I really don't think this is the matchup for Robber. Phoenix would be fine. I mean, Shredded Sails answers Rankle, I guess, but that doesn't super excite me either. I think I want to go faster. I've made the appearances to my opponent that my deck is clunky. I wonder what will give them that idea. And of course, this is banking on us drawing 2 red sources, which we drew 1. Okay, that's this is a start. Hand's a keep. And we'll lead on the tapped land. So hopefully we can go Meletus into Apparition. We have to get these Births of Meletus out pretty quick because we've already drawn 2 of our planes. I don't want to get into a position where these things are blanks. So next turn I'm probably playing the Spikefield Hazard face down. Do they have like an Innkeeper? That might change my mind. No, they just have another Heart's Desire. Okay. We draw another Apparition. Well, we don't have a target yet. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and Birth again, and we'll play Spikefield Hazard face down. I mean, I can't clear both of these, and I really don't want to try to 1-for-1 with these tokens when my deck has, 11 sweepers in it or whatever, so let's not play on that axis. So now they presumably play Lovestruck Beast, we'll Apparition it. And then actually our 2/2 will kind of rule the board for a moment at least. If they kill it, they get back a 3/3 that doesn't go through our walls. Like, yeah, there's something good happening here, I guess. I mean, ultimately what's going to happen is that these walls are going to get swept up by one of our plethora of sweepers, which is kind of awkward. Do I have to pick? That's funny. You would think that that was the only target. Oh, exile up to 1. So I could... I never knew that about Skyclave Apparition. I could decline if I wanted to. But once I've chosen a target, then it's locked in. I can't wait until the thing is resolving. Interesting. Alright, so they're going to play the other Lovestruck Beast, because do I have an Apparition for that? Yep. Happens. And they just played a Kazandu Mammoth face down. So that suggests to me that a Questing Beast is coming. I'm going to spend a wall to buy a turn. And I kind of wish I had kept both my red spells up. Damn you, Auto Tapper. Oh, instead they have the Great Henge. That makes sense too. Okay, well, I spent a while to get some news, but I got bad news. What can you do? Storm's Wrath, that is terrible. And we draw another mana source. Okay, let's see if the opponent's willing to bait the double block that I'm setting up. And they do not. That's fine. Then let's actually keep up both our red spells this time, and I'll take the other Lovestruck Beast, and then we'll get pummeled by the Great Henge. So we have 2 spells and ability to draw cards. So we're hoping to find either Ondu Inversion or I guess Ugin if they haven't set up very well, but none of our spells answer Questing Beast. Vivian. Well, no counters for that one. Yep. They elect Reach. I guess thinking about Emeria's Call. Let me draw Useless. Vivian's on 4. I can Scorch her if I wanted to. Do I spend 2 spells to get Vivian off the battlefield? I find it very strange that my opponent did not cast a creature. You'd think that that was coming. Storm's Wrath would just give them 2 3/3s, which feels bad. I do feel like I need to answer Vivian, though. I mean, clearing... oh, there's Onto Inversion. Mana check. I'm on 6. This is 7. If I play Birth of Meletus, then I'll have number 8 in a minute. Okay, so how does that change things? Because that makes me more interested in giving my opponent these 3/3s that are under the Skyclave Apparitions. So, owing to the fact that we are going to blow up the board next turn, I'm actually just going to go ahead and let this all happen. Like, yeah, I could blow this out with my spells, but I don't actually want to. Like, you can even Storm's Wrath right now. That feels kind of good. Okay, sure. You know what? Take Vivian out with it. Now they presumably will go bananas. Yeah, there's their second black, so I'm expecting to see Rankle here. There would have been a window to Scorching Dragonfire Rankle. Since this is a triggered ability, Rankle would be on the battlefield, and on the stack would be put a +1/+1 counter on Rankle. And then I could do something about it before it resolves. Yep. So the opponent's just straight up black-green. They're just playing Endothe Triome as their way to cycle lands. Maria's Call, huh? Okay, sure. So now the question is, do I invert? Or do I save it for the opponent getting bigger than what they have right now? Like, maybe we just play 2 Angels and see if they can answer that. If they spend some spells to, like, you know, Bloodchief's Thirst or Murderous Rider them, fine, so be it. And then we'll blow up the world. I also, like, they have an indestructible wall now, so come at me, Foulmire Knight. Do they realize the wall is indestructible? I'm guessing that they don't. Okay. So what do we got post-combat? Oh, here they are. Okay, Bloodchief's Thirst. One of my tokens. I can't do anything about that. Are we going to use another spell on the other token? Is that what we're headed towards? Oh, Agonizing Remorse. Well, that's a nuisance. The good news is that there's plenty more Onto Inversions where that one went. But, I mean, that will cut me off of that for the moment. I don't even know that I was going to cast it. I think at the moment we're at the point where they have to beat my Angel and then we'll blow up the world. I'm not going to waste my last Maze Mind Tome counter on a Scry. Though I will go ahead and draw the card right now. Gain my 4 life, etc., etc. I wouldn't mind another Maze Mind Tome. That would be a sweet card off the top. It's another Amaria's Call. Can I cast that? I can cast that, right? Okay. Let's continue entreating the Angels here. And now this Angel's indestructible. Rawr. Go. Evidenced by the fact that they spent the Bloodchief's Thirst. Obviously, they were not happy with me having 2 4/4s last turn. So now let's see how they feel about me having 3 4/4s. The tapped Angel is indestructible, though I don't know that that's obvious. There's like a sheen. Oh, no, that's not true. None of the Angels are indestructible because it says non-Angel creatures gain indestructible. It's not creatures other than the ones that you created, which is the way that I tend to parse that. Anyway, one of them meets a swift end. Yeah, so the opponent obviously just had a glut of removal spells in their hand. And a Kazandu Mammoth. Okay. Well, it's kind of annoying that we missed the window to clear either of those. But kind of glorious that we just found Mazavith. And go. So we can blank the life link here. Use the fact that we're 28 life from all of our Births of Meletus and Maze Mine Tome to take a couple of hits and maybe get across the line. Maybe. I think it's pretty unlikely given that I know they at least have the Foulmire Knight, so they're going to be able to draw some cards. I feel like I need another Amaria's Call or like Ugin to go up top. That would be pretty good. It's like, what is in their hand though, except for more, like, what is in their deck? They only can draw redraws or removal spells, and both of those are kind of bad for me. There's the Questing Beast. I don't feel like this is where I can put my foot down. Cycle Triumph. So I really don't want to give my opponent the life, if I can help it. Since right now I'm going to hit them for 8 down to 5. They'll gain 2 life to 7, and then I hit them for 8 and kill them. So I feel incentivized to take the Murderous Rider out of combat. As it stands, I'm taking 7. I think that's fine. So next turn I again blank the Murderous Rider and then take 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 14. Like that's okay. So alright, we just untap. Oh my gosh. I drew another Mary's Call. Alright, well, the bad news, such as it is that we take down our Mazavith, but wow. Okay, your move. Now I don't mind eating the Murderous Rider if that's what it comes to, right? Like I can spend a spell, or sorry, spend 3 life on that, and that would be okay. We would still attack for 12 or 16, depending on exactly how things go this turn. Yep. And I'm not expecting a card like, I don't even know, something that gives -1/-1. Oh, if this is your play, then I guess we're going to be forced into action here, huh? So, I could kill an X4, though there isn't one anymore. I would have had to go after the Kazandu Mammoth at that moment. Like, they know the 2 cards in my hand, so this presumably is not going to be a shock to them that this is what I'm doing. I can't believe this is the best use of their mana, though. You have a Lovestruck Beast that you could cast. Like, why wouldn't you use that as part of your cantrip package? They've played their land this turn. So if everything attacks, I block the Murderous Rider. And again, we take, what, 15? That's fine. They would gain 3 life here and 2 life there. Wind up on something less than 12. And then we'll hit them with 3 Angels. Right, the kind of card that would punish that block. Okay, this is fine. This is just 1 extra reach blocker, but that's not going to stop me from flying over for the win. Something like a -1/-1 effect, right? Like if they had a Disfigure, then I would be punished for blocking, but obviously everything worked out. All right, let's go to game 3. Well, now that I've seen that they're a Henge deck, I'm more interested in the Shredded Sails. Though I don't know exactly how I'm going to make room for it. I guess I'm not super excited about Elspeth. They obviously struggled to deal with flyers, so I like that I have Phoenix of Ash in my deck. But I don't know if I want to bring in a card that would otherwise be, like, really blank. Like, do I go -2 Elspeth plus 2 Shredded Sails? Do I shave another Storm's Wrath? I think this card's not good. I definitely don't want to see a second one. If you told me my opponent was going to have the Great Henge in play for several turns and I was going to win that game anyway, I would have been quite surprised. I don't think I can keep this hand. It's basically 6 lands and a 7-drop. Let's try again. Ooh. So I do have a white source to play the Birth of Meletus, and I have a card draw engine. Let's keep this in Bin a Spikefield Hazard, and we'll start on Onto Inversion into Mountain Birth. Ooh, I drew Plains, so now I'm like allowed to do this. I like that. So we'll go Plains Birth. I'm guessing that the fact that they ran it out meant that they have, yeah, many. Like, if they have exactly an innkeeper Foulmire start, then that would make sense. It also would have made sense if what they had was one innkeeper and then a Order of Midnight, and their goal was to be mana efficient. So now we get hit. I'm guessing they're just going to play a Lovestruck Beast this turn. No, it's another Foulmire Knight without having played a land. Their land is tapped. Okay. So let's just put the Phoenix on the battlefield, I think. Like, we could play Mazemind Tome, but we can't draw off of it, and we have nothing better to do next turn. So, like, that's a reasonable place to put our mana. We also can potentially get this Phoenix back, right? So we need only 3 other cards from our graveyard before it can come back. We've already got 1 down there. This is going to the graveyard as well. Unfortunately, Mazemind Tome exiles. There's the Order of Midnight that I was suggesting they might have. I'll take the 2 pings from the Foulmire Knight. And there's Heart's Desire. Okay. Ooh. I do have something to do this turn. Let's hope we hit the 1/2s, huh? That would be pretty good for us. So Onto Inversion is the next land that we play. Oh, come on. Did I even show them? I guess I did. I showed them Outlaw's Merriment in game 1, but... Really? My hope is that we draw like Shatter the Sky or a Storm's Wrath now. I guess I just take this. We draw another Birth of Meletus. So I can get land 5, land 6. I'm still 1 short on the Amarius Call. I mean, I don't know that I can race, but I don't know that I can block well, so let's just attack. Part of cheesing games with decks like this is getting in the couple points of damage that you can. Like, alright, we're spending our life to do that, but once the board is swept, we can get the Phoenix back, and it's possible that we'll be able to rebuild faster. So, like, that's the part of the game that I'm kind of trying to play towards. Sure. I mean, that represents an extra 1 damage. I don't really care about that. So we'll take 6 going to 10. Draw another land. Pick up another blocker. So I'm going to play the Onto Inversion this turn, and then we'll make Angels next turn. The wall will block there. We'll take the same 6 and go to 4. Gain 2 life back. Alright. I mean, this is obviously quite bad, but what can you do? Wilting the Outlaw's Merriment does mean that the Phoenix can regrow. Maybe that meant I was supposed to just throw it under the bus. Yep. And we are dead. Okay. What can you do? I don't know that we were going to beat the Great Henge over a long game anyway. 1 and 3. On to match number 5. Match number 5, and we are on the play with... actually kind of a reasonable hand, huh? So let's keep this, and I guess start with one of our tapped lands. Probably the Onto Inversion. This way we can go Crawling Barrens, Birth of Meletus, and then we'll have an extra untapped land that we can cycle, like, sequence in. I'm playing against Rogues again. So I'm expecting my opponent to play... ooh, not that one. A Thieves Guild Enforcer here. That's fine. Yep. Mill, Birth, and put Elspeth in our graveyard. Well, we know that Elspeth has been quite good in this matchup in the past, and we also have the mana to use it. So I like seeing that. I also like that our opponent is playing this a little slow. If they have access to a Soaring Thought Thief, they're not using it. I'm going to play the Apparition this turn, and the logic for that is that it cannot get drowned in the lock. There's only 2 cards in my graveyard. Yeah, and the opponent can't do anything about it, so I like this. They do have the Thought Thief. So we were able to get this in underneath their counter magic, which feels good. Random cards get turned over, whatever. Ooh, interesting. We haven't seen Chandra do anything yet, but potentially its time is coming. I'm just playing Maze Mind Tome and Spikefield Hazard this turn. We're on 7 cards in graveyard, so if they have a Soaring Thought Thief, it would trade for the Skyclave Apparition. I don't know that I even care. Like that would be okay with me. So maybe we start with an attack. And then we'll play Chandra next turn. So I want to play Spikefield Hazard, tapped, and Maze Mind Tome into their counterspell. I mean, they're not playing lands, so it's not good if you're thinking, well, the best case scenario is that my opponent has like 4 Into the Story in their hand that they can't get out. But that's kind of where we are. Now I can't attack with Apparition because if they do have a Thought Thief, then they would get me pretty good. We're 1 mana away from running back the Elspeth, which is exciting. So I'm going to play... So the problem is that Chandra just literally doesn't do anything. I can put 2 damage on this, but that's not enough to matter. Maybe I attack. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, try to encourage them to use their mana. They do not. Then in that case, let's just get another thing drowned in the lock. That's fine. Like, they don't have any pressure on me right now, and I'm going to start flooding the board with Elspeth tokens. Yep. So we've seen 2 drowns from them now. Scorching Dragonfire, that's interesting. Okay, well that gives me the confidence to attack. I don't love the resource management that's going to force me to shock here or bolt, but what can you do? And now we just play Elspeth every turn of the game until my opponent succumbs. So if they have like Jawari Disruption, Lofty Denial, any of that sort of card, they can certainly answer this. Wow, they have drown number 3. So I don't love that play from the opponent because that is kind of a tempo play, right? Like, that's not going to stop Elspeth from eventually hitting the battlefield. And those drowns are important, right? Like, ultimately, Elspeth does not answer Soaring Thought Thief. I wonder if this game would have been going better for me had I just been attacking with the Crawling Barons. I guess they would have spent a drown on that instead. And the fact that I've kind of run them through all of their drown in the locks means that the Crawling Barons is going to become a bigger problem as we go on. Ultimately, like, now I'm down to 6 cards in graveyard, right? I've just turned off the Soaring Thought Thief, which is kind of amusing. We're going to make tokens this turn, but it might come to the point where Elspeth is going to start bolstering my life total. So if they have a Thieves Guild Enforcer, they've played Spikefield Hazard back into being useful. Oh, this is fine. You may have a 1/1, and now that I have a 1/1 factory, like whatever. It also gives the Birth of Meletus Wall something to block, which I appreciate. Both of these are presumably going at Elspeth, or at least the Thought Thief is. Well, the Thought Thief is going to power up if my opponent does that, so it would knock Elspeth to 1. I don't know if that's good or bad for them, though, because then Elspeth would die. And that would let me recast her and activate her again. I'm actually going to hazard the 1/1 because I need to get this game over with relatively quick. Another Elspeth. Interesting. Well, we can kind of do it all. The fact that the opponent hasn't found any lands has obviously not been good for them. And I'm just going to cash it, the Elspeth in. Keep the new one. Put the other one into the escape zone and make 2 more tokens. And now if they do anything, I can scorch their creature. They can't do 9 damage to me, and I still have a bajillion cards in my library. Oh, in that case, get scorched. I mean, it doesn't actually matter what my opponent does here. If they spend mana not to get the Scorching Dragonfire resolving, then I can just activate the Scoured Barrens. Or whatever it's called, Crawling Barrens. Okay, so in this matchup, I like the haste cards. And since my opponent saw Elspeth, it's reasonable for them to either already have Cling to Dust in their deck or be bringing Cling to Dust in. So I actually think that I'm supposed to be playing Soulglide Lantern to turn that off. I didn't do that in a previous match, and I kind of regretted it. I don't hate Apparition. We're on 64 cards. So the amusing thing about taking Ondu Inversion out is that we're losing mana sources, but we're also losing the 8 drops that we're going to be casting those mana sources. Like if you look at where our curve stops otherwise, it does kind of end at 4. Elspeth is sort of a 6. I don't love Shatter in this matchup either, though. So maybe we'll keep in a couple of these just as lands, and we'll pull Shatters out. On the plus side, Storm's Wrath does answer all of their creatures and doesn't let them draw a card off of a 4/2 Thieves Guild Enforcer. So unlike in the previous matchup, we actually prefer Storm's Wrath in this situation. Game number 2. So we have 4 red lands, 1 white one. Our opponent has mulliganed. We have multiple removal spells potentially. I think this hand is fine. And I think we're going to lead on Spikefield Hazard. I mean, yes, it can answer a Thieves Guild Enforcer, but so can the Bone Crusher Giant, so I don't mind putting that on the battlefield face down. Whoa. Interesting. So holding up just a black mana, very interesting. Suggests that they do intend to play Thieves Guild Enforcer. You know what? Screw it. Let's Spikefield Hazard it. Ooh, let's turn off the auto pass, though. I would like to do something when they flash this thing in right now. I mean, they're lower on cards, so I just want to limit their ability to put cards in my graveyard. If that can turn off some of their cards like Into the Story or Drown in the Loch, then that would be a win for me. I like seeing red lands go away and not white ones. Unfortunately, Bone Crusher Giant cannot answer Soaring Thought Thief very easily. Okay, so now we can just go ahead and do this. I mean, I can't jeopardize my development to hold up the Bone Crusher Giant. And in fact, they did have the Thought Thief. If they played a second Thieves Guild Enforcer, then obviously we would rather have been able to stomp, but that's not the way this game went. Plains? I would settle for a Mary's Call. We've got 5 cards in graveyard. Oh, and there is in fact the Cling to Dust. And a Wind Robber. So I'm going to stomp that. Oh, I drew the Soulglide Lantern just the way I drew it up. Okay, so let's start with Labyrinth to cast Lantern and answer your Cling to Dust. And then put my foot down on this stupid thing. And go. So their Thought Thief will turn on. There's nothing I can really do about that. Next turn I'll Birth, and then I'll be able to start casting double white spells. This can only exile each opponent's graveyard, so I'm not going to be able to reset their rogues that way. That's fine. What can you do? I draw another Apparition, which is kind of unfortunate. So they are not making any attempt to hold up counter magic right now. I think they're, I mean, it's possible that they just kind of lucked into it by me having a clunky draw. And like, they do have the drown, but they were willing to put it down in order to mill me a couple extra cards last turn. I do have another mana source, but I don't have anything that I can do to follow up after the Apparition. I'm debating whether I should just crack the Lantern, and I think I probably should. Like, imagine if I drew a Scorching Dragonfire. It would give me the ability to potentially do multiple things this turn. Otherwise, it's just got to be the Apparition. Like, we need to try to slow down their attack. We drew a Robber of the Rich. Unfortunately, I'm the rich one. And there's a Storm's Wrath. I don't feel like I have the luxury to bolt myself when I'm on the hook for this much damage. Though we can start with Apparition, see that it doesn't resolve, and then figure out what we're doing after that. Oh, I admit I was not expecting that. So their hand must be just multiple into the stories. So I could play Robber here, but again, I don't know that I can afford the life payment still. I mean, we're attempting to get ourselves on stable footing. Do they have like a Heartless Act? They have a Brazen Bar, or they're just going to cast. So I'm going to take 6 this turn. Wow, playing Robber actually would have been good. It would have forced them to Petty Theft. I draw the Scorching Dragonfire. That's also interesting. Okay, my plan is to start with an attack. I'm hoping that they flash something in to eat this. They do not. So if I Storm's Wrath, then that leaves them with a 2/2, and I would be otherwise defenseless. I don't really like the idea of putting the shields all the way down. Like, if I play Storm's Wrath and they flash something in, I'm like pretty much dead. So I'm going to play Apparition 2. That also just resolves. And I don't really care which one of these I take. I guess I'll take the larger one. And I'm going to upkeep Scorching Dragonfire. That also happens. So that response pattern suggests that they did not have anything like instant speed they could do about this. Wow, we have good options now. If I rob them, I can't play the lands that I draw. So my choices are to play 4 mana spells or the 1/2 mana spell, and the 4 mana spells seem more impactful. Getting Elspeth down feels good because I can also gain life at some point, though Merriment will quickly get out of control. Geez, I don't know. Let's play Elspeth. And I am just going to make tokens. Mainly because I'm afraid of Petty Theft, which it doesn't appear that my opponent has anything from the way that they pass priority so quickly. But I don't want to get Petty Thefted and then them have a 3/3 that I have to find some way to deal with. They drew the land, which meant that they could have played into the story, I guess, but Elspeth was enough pressure. I'll take it. We are 2-3. Match number 6. Will we play against either Rogues or Questing Beast plus the Great Henge for the 3rd time? This hand is propped up by Maze Mind Tome, and perhaps that's a reason not to keep it. Wow. Opponent just played Throne of Makindi. So we're playing against Kicker? Is my opponent going to play a Roost of Drakes next? They're going to play a Maze Mind Tome. Okay, well, I'll match you there. So, Throne of Makindi is a charge land. You can put charge counters on it. You can even have more than one counter at a time, though you can only pull one counter off of it at any given time. And when you do that, you get 2 mana. So you can bank 1 mana into a future turn, but you can only use that to play kicked spells. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know totally what's going on here, but I'm certainly intrigued. And Maria's Call on top. I think that's fine. I'm afraid that all of my cards are terrible. Like, I don't know if I'm going to see Scorching Dragonfire targets. I don't know if I'm going to be able to exile anything with Ugin. I don't know if this is just like a very low value card that is here just mainly as a colorless land, because everything else that they've done suggests that they're playing mono brown. Here comes Solemn. So Solemn actually is a Scorching Dragonfire target. I don't feel like I need to do that right now because I have nothing to do with my mana next turn. They found another island. Right, like next turn I can Scorch plus draw a card, or I can just play Merriment. Like, okay, hit me for 2, whatever. So what do we think is in our opponent's deck? Probably Ugin, probably Forsaken Monument is what I'm guessing based on the cards that I've seen so far. Definitely we're bringing in all the Shredded Sails. And from what I've seen so far, I feel like we're going to try to go under them post-board. So, like, I don't want these. I would rather have access to Robber of the Rich and Phoenix of Ash, our kind of transformational plan. Five mana in the mana pool to play Forsaken Monument, as I feared. Okay, so that gives this thing +2/+2. So I kind of missed my window on Scorching it, though we could hit the 1/2 off of Outlaw's Merriment, and that would answer it. Let's scry. The Birth of Meletus. I think that's fine. We need mana sources to be able to play Amaria's Call. We missed. So I'll play Birth. Get my land, play my land. And I think I'm just taking 4 more. Because I would rather draw off my Mazemind Tome. My goal is to find some way to cast these big spells. Opponent has access to a ton of mana. Yep, there's the Spirit Dragon. So if they -4 it, then I will, to clear the Outlaw's Merriment, then I will be able to clear it with a Scorching Dragonfire. I still don't see the need to do that right now. I would rather draw a card. They still have 4 mana left, but they don't do anything with it. I'll gain the 4 life back that I just lost. There's a mana source. I like that. Okay, so we'll start with Mountain, and then we'll Scorch the Ugin. And now we'll hope they don't have a follow-up Ugin. That Crawling Baron is going to hurt. If they power it up again, it will be a 6/6. We might need to just spend 2 spells on it. Because that thing is immune to sorcery speed removal. The problem is that I can't actually even do that. So I need them to make the first move. I need them to be like, hey, look, he didn't block. Let's put 2 more counters on it, and then I can spend 2 spells to clear it. But otherwise, they can reactivate. Yeah. Well, given that I can't clear this thing, it's just going to kill me next turn. Maybe I was supposed to double Scorch the Solemn, but then they double activate this. So there was no way out. I think we are just, in fact, dead. And, I mean, alright. Who got the better of that deal? I killed your Solemn, but then I killed myself. Okay, so I love Shredded Sails. I love Phoenix. I like Robber. I'm not feeling those. I don't even know if, like, is Storm's Wrath good? I feel like these spells probably need to get shaved. Onto Inversion seems fine, amusingly enough. Skyclave Apparition can't hit the big one. They must have intermediate mana stones of some sort that we can potentially clear with Skyclave Apparition. I can't believe that their whole deck starts at 5. Bone Crusher Giant does not appear good. I mean, it's like aggressive, but that's the best I can say about it. Scorching Dragonfire also doesn't seem good. Maybe we shave that and like one of the inversions, one of the Amarius Calls, one of the Maze Mind Tomes, another Scorching Dragonfire. Yeah, let's shave another Scorching Dragonfire. Alright, that's my transformational plan. I wonder what my opponent's transformational plan is. If they have one. I mean, they won that game kind of convincingly. Okay. Okay. I like that I'll be able to put a 4-3 on the battlefield at least. Ooh, Shredded Cells. I like that too. They again lead on Throne of McKindy. You got it. White source? No, no, no. We are a white source short still of playing this Outlaw's Merriment, which is unfortunate. Hopefully we can scry into one. Though we do have like Vindicate in our hand right now. That was a tapped Jawari Disruption. Okay. And actually I'm like, I want to hit this. Oh, Amarius Call. That's it. I was going to say I want to hit this Outlaw's Merriment so bad. I was considering going for the Upkeep Scry even. So they played Jawari Disruption tapped. They don't actually have mana to access to colored mana. I don't think there's anything that they can really do about this. Let's hope that the clerics slash whatever adventuring party. It's a warrior, a cleric, and a rogue. Let's hope that they can go nuts on our opponent while they're trying to set up. They charge their Throne of McKindy. Do they have a kicked spell to cast? No, it's just Solemn. Okay. So they're going to ramp off of this, putting an island into play, but then we are going to be able to Scorch it and not give them the card, which feels good. I did not intentionally miss that scry, but whatever. I don't think it's actually a big deal, since now I'll get to draw. And I'm not actually in that much of a hurry. So we have Shatter and draw a card up. They could play Forsaken Monument this turn, but I don't think they can follow up if they do that. I don't think they can actually be dead. This is... They do play Forsaken Monument. Okay, great. Pass to attackers, pass to end step, draw a card. A 2-1. So actually they are dead, right? That's 8 on the board plus this. And I don't even have to show them that I brought in Shatters. I mean, they probably could guess that I have them, but... Sweet! Let's go to game 3. Alright, here we go. Game number 3. So this hand is missing white mana and has 2 double white spells. It doesn't have anything that we sideboarded in. That kind of makes me not want it. This looks a lot better. I'm going to keep this and throw back the Dragonfire, I guess. Like, it can answer a Solemn, but I just attacked past that so well. And then we'll start with, like, Spikefield Hazard into Birth of Meletus, and we'll have our mana set up. And we'll need the top of the deck to do something, but that's fine. Maze Mind Tome, sure. Merriment. Okay, well, that counts as the top of the deck having done something. So we'll go Birth into Bone Crusher into Merriment. And we won't have to bolt ourselves either, which feels good. Skyclave Apparition is interesting. Maybe I just eat their... Okay, change of plans. Let's just eat their Maze Mind Tome and cut them off of cards. Ooh, okay. Well, I mean, that would have hit the Bone Crusher Giant just as well. And it does stop them from drawing. So they like the card on top. We draw a very useless Shatter the Sky. So is this going to resolve? We saw Jwari Disruption in their deck. Rewind.
I love Rewind.
Wow, Rewind allowing them to draw a card off of Maze Mind Tome. I feel like I got pretty seriously got there. Do they have the turn 5 Forsaken Monument? They do not appear to. Phoenix of Ash off the top. Alright, I will bolt myself for that. You want to counter this? I can get it right back. And we're going to have to make a decision next turn. Brazen Borrower, sure. About whether we play this Amari's Call tapped or untapped. Untapped would let us pump the Phoenix. Wait, that's false. I only have 2 red sources. Now that I have to recast it. That's no longer true. Yeah, the Maze Minds continue. So I wonder if my opponent's intention is to trade Phoenix for the Brazen Borrower. If it is, I think I just accept. Essence Scatter is fine. We're on 6 lands with Amari's Call in hand. Solemn. So Solemn is infinitely answered by this wall until they eventually play a Forsaken Monument. Yeah, there's the last mana source I need. So how do we feel about the opponent's counterspell situation? Do I try to jam this Amari's Call through, or do I play like Phoenix plus Bone Crusher?
I like Phoenix Bone Crusher.
Yeah, I think that the Amari's Call is too good to run that one into the counterspell. I will happily run this Bone Crusher Giant into a counterspell, though. My intention is to attack first. If they play Brazen Borrower to trade, then I will stomp it. And if they don't, then I will play the 4/3. They could easily have Jwari Disruption, and if they do, they got me. Okay, we got some cards in the battlefield at least. My cards. Land. So Amari's Call is very bad, since Ugin can answer that for free. Crawling Barrens doesn't get it done either. Like, I can attack, but it will only be a 2/2 the first time, so it will just trade for the Solemn. So I think we have to sit here and get volted. Then we can activate the Crawling Barrens twice, and then untap and attack for 6. If they want to use Ugin to clear my wall, I don't really care about that. Oh, or I could just beef the click and take 2. That's also fine. I mean, whatever. I'll keep my wall. So do they... That puts Ugin on 6. So do they have an answer for Crawling Barrens? I will not turn it into a creature. I will not turn it into a creature. I will turn it into a creature. I will attack Ugin for 6. What could they have? Like, Petty Theft doesn't answer a land.
Oh, I forgot.
They
That's
can
what I was thinking
they
about.
can animate their own Crawling Barrens. I mean, I just indicated to my opponent that Crawling Barrens has text. There's really no reason not for them to do that.
And just jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have access to what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana, so they can't get it large enough to trade profitably, but they could just throw 4 mana and a land away to keep their Ugin. Like, that seems worth it. What is that holding them off from doing? Like, they have a Brazen Borrower. That doesn't really matter on the battlefield right now. They have a Shark Typhoon, which they can do for 8, right? We said they had 10 mana. That's not good. So if I had bolted pre-combat, then I would have had mana for another activation, but given that I couldn't actually lose it to one of their Crawling Barons, I don't have any reason to think that I should have done that. Like, okay, now I can bolt and shatter this guy. Is that good? Then I just die to their lands. I think we're just done here. I've seen enough. GG's opponent.
Oof.
I will take 2 and 4 with that deck.
That was brutal.
What have we learned? You need to have a way to answer Questing Beast. The fact that you have a bunch of sweepers is very bad against haste, and you can't beat the Great Henge. There's just your cards are all very bad against it. So as long as those cards are running around, I would not recommend doing anything like this, but I hope you enjoyed. We can say that science has been done.